Hi, and welcome to this episode of John's Motorcycle Rescue and Review. Today, we've got another head-to-head comparison for you. And once again, this one is on two classic muscle cruisers. And the first one up here is Suzuki's 1983 GS1100L. And it has been, if you've seen some of my other videos, it's been a long project for me. I've actually bought that bike as a parts bike and have gone through the process of getting a title for it and putting it back on the road, and it's just been a fun project. It's been a lot of work, but I really think the results were worth it, and it's one of my favorite all-around bikes. I just love it. And this is a more recent newcomer. This is Honda's 1982 CB900 Custom. And I picked this one up last year at about this time and went through it. It was a non-runner as well, but really it required less work to get this thing on the road and roadworthy. And most of that is just due to the fact that it was in better shape when I started. So I cleaned the carburetors on this bike, put a new battery in it, new tires, did the service on the bike, and really it has run fantastically for me ever since. So today I'm going to be doing a head-to-head comparison between these two bikes. Try to describe what their personalities are like. These bikes were both designed concurrently. They were designed at the same time. They both use a very similar formula. They're both shaft drive. They both have air adjustable suspension. They both have dual disc brakes in the front, and each of them has a big 4-cylinder motor that originated in a super sport bike. So the one in the 900 Custom originated in Honda's CB900 Super Sport, and the one in Suzuki's GS1100 originated in their GS1000. They're both fantastic motors. As far as smoothness goes, I give the nod to the Honda. Overall power delivery and actual power output, the Suzuki, man, it puts out a lot of power, but it does it very smoothly, and it's got a very broad band, just a broad power band, I should say. So, what are they like to drive? Well, let's suit up and we'll go for a test drive. I'll give you kind of my thoughts on each one as I'm driving it, what they're like to ride and drive, what their personalities are like, and then we'll come back and kind of wrap this up. All right, let's ride.
I am riding Honda's 1982 CB900 Custom, and it's got a Mack exhaust on it, as you just heard. Man, this is just Honda's top-of-the-line cruiser from the time period. It's got the 900cc motor out of the Super Sport. It actually makes pretty decent power when you really wind it out like that, but that's just really not what this bike is about. This bike is more comfortable, just cruising, just taking it easy. It does handle supremely well. I really like the way it transitions in the corners and has really it's a nice stable handling platform. Very well composed. And the long wheelbase probably contributes to that, but that long wheelbase doesn't keep the bike from handling really nicely. This bike is definitely down on power when you compare it to either Suzuki's GS1100L or, say, Kawasaki's KZ1000 CSR. It just does not have the motor that either of those bikes have. And quite frankly, the CB750 with chain drive was actually a little bit quicker than the CB900. That's not really what this bike is about. This bike is about refinement. It's about going through the countryside or just anywhere you want to go, really, and it'll do it comfortably, confidently, and smoothly. And it was their flagship model in the cruiser lineup until the Magnus came out, and Honda had done a unique feature with the 5-speed transmission, and they actually put a dual range transfer case that allowed this bike to have a high and a low range. And so if you're riding it more aggressively, more sportingly, you could leave it in low range and then just shift to high range when you're just cruising or on the highway. Although high range, most of the time I shift the bike into high range and just leave it there. It pulls nicely regardless. But this is a beautiful bike. I love the styling on it. I love the two-tone paint. It sounds nice when you get on the throttle, but this Mack exhaust really does, once you have it in the higher gears, it quiets right down. It's not obnoxious. And honestly, it just makes me, right now, I just want to keep riding. Of all the cruisers of the time period, the Honda was by far the smoothest, just the most refined. This has dual caliper disc brakes in the front, and it also has dual caliper disc brakes in the rear, and so that's just another kind of a cut above the competition. Suzuki and Kawasaki were still running big single piston calipers on the brakes. So just, yes, it's a little bit more complex, but it's more refined. And that's really what this Honda is about. It's a fantastic cruiser. This thing is a little bit of a hot ride. I love it. I've got the Delcovic 4-to-1 pipe on this, and it sounds so nice. But by the same token, this bike is a bike that if you want to just tool around and go slow on, it's just perfectly happy to do that as well. But it has that engine note that's a little bit addictive. So how does this bike compare with the Honda that I just rode? Well, it's a much more direct feel. It's still a smooth ride. It's got a great motor in it. The handling on this bike is nice. With the way I have the bars set up, it feels a little bit more sporty than the Honda. And if I would change the bar on the Honda, it would also feel similar. But the suspension is definitely firmer from stock. I haven't had to do anything to the brakes on this bike, and they're shockingly good. So I'm happy with the brake setup on this bike from the factory. The seat on this bike is it's the most comfortable of the muscle cruiser seats. Very nice. And I do love the fact that this bike has a fuel gauge, and I love the fact that it has the gas gauge as well. And on a tighter back road, this bike would probably be a little quicker than the Honda, only because the wheelbase is shorter, and so it turns in, like low speed turn in on this bike is fantastic. It snaps into a corner. The front end really, it's got a little bit narrower tire as well than the Honda, and maybe a little bit, I'm not sure if the diameter of the wheel is smaller, but it definitely turns in a lot quicker. Both of these bikes actually have adequate more than adequate ground clearance. I've never dragged hard parts on either one. Although I'm not driving them like I would a sport bike. Although the Honda has a nicer ride, the combination of the seat and the ergonomics on this bike really make it an all-day comfortable bike as well. The motor has a little bit more vibration than the Honda, but it's still very smooth. If I had to just describe this bike in a couple of words, it would just be fun. It feels like a hot rod, but it's also confidence inspiring.
All right, that was a lot of fun. Well, which of these bikes do I like better? That's kind of a hard choice. If I had my perfect bike, I would have the Suzuki with Honda's stability and suspension compliance, and I would also have a 6th gear on the Suzuki. That would honestly be really, really nice. Or I would have Honda's CB1100 motor put into the CB900 Custom, and I think that would really, the extra displacement would really go a long way in kind of fixing what kind of gets overshadowed when compared to the other muscle cruisers. I would say the Honda is just a little bit down on ultimate power and low end, and that's kind of understandable just given the fact that it's got a smaller motor. And even though it's a 16-valve motor, and even though it makes power pretty high in the RPM range, once you get it up there, it really does start to pull harder. It really kind of goes against the nature of a cruiser. And a cruiser, you just want, especially a muscle cruiser, you want something that feels quick, something that feels like it's just got excess power. And that's really what is appealing to me about this class of motorcycle, is just you always have excess power. You always have, when you want to go, you just twist that throttle. And when Honda changed their gearing in their CB900 and geared it taller, it's really nice and relaxed on the highway. But once you're in top gear, in high range, in the transmission, the bike is somewhat down on low end power. And so any roll-on contest with the Suzuki would just walk away from it. Honda's refinement is great. It has really good stock brakes. The handling is really, really nice, even as long as it is. The bar setup from stock on the Honda is far more comfortable than what was on the Suzuki originally. And I like the paint quality on the Honda, the fit and finish. It's just a really, really nice product. And when I do a little bit longer rides, I often will just hop on the Honda and throw a tail pack on it and go pick up parts or go just run errands on it. It's just a nice riding bike, always fires right up for me. And the Suzuki is one of those bikes that it's probably, for my personality, the best suited of the muscle cruisers. It's got a very playful nature, and I like that, but it also has reasonable gearing, so it feels real world capable, and it does fine on the highway. It's actually in top gear, geared about the same as the Honda, and that's nice. The difference is, even in top gear at lower speed, the Suzuki has just a tremendous amount of torque, and snap, and so you can really lug this engine, and it doesn't seem to mind. It wants to go. So it's got, you know, I think optimal gearing on the Suzuki. I love the sound. The Delcovic 4-in-1 exhaust, it has a gravelly note to the exhaust, and it sounds really good. And that's another thing, you know, if I put a Delcovic on the Honda, I'm not even sure if they make a pipe for the Honda, but I would, you know, the Mac is a 4-in-1 exhaust as well, and you can hear it. It makes a little noise, but it's so much quieter and tamer sounding than a Delcovic unit. And if you want quieter, you know, that kind of actually fits the demeanor of the Honda. It's just more relaxed. It's honestly the better cruiser of the two, but Suzuki is definitely the GS1100L. It's the better muscle cruiser of the two. I'm not really going to declare a winner on this contest. Yeah, whichever of these bikes is your favorite, man, there's nothing wrong with it. And really, motorcycling is subjective, and it's really about figuring out, what do you like best? Which one is the best for you? But I'm honestly really happy to have each of these bikes in the garage, and you know, each one is my favorite on a different day. So which do you prefer? Do you prefer a muscle cruiser or a cruiser? All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was informative. Certainly a lot of fun to make. Stay tuned. We'll have more comparisons and project videos coming up soon. All right, have a great day.